Now let's talk about attaching, when you need to attach 2 or more pieces of wood together. So let's talk about drills. We have 2 types of drills here. We have your standard drill that allows you to drill holes and to insert screws. Then we have what's called a compact wrench or a compact driver. Some people call them hammer drills. It actually helps to hammer the screw into the wood. Some people call it an impact drill because of that hammering mechanism that's inside. You'll notice this one only has one setting, and that's to be an impact or hammer drill as you're drilling into the wood. So what do we need to use a drill? Because drills have multiple purposes. Some of the pieces that I have are actually like a wrench. So if I have a bolt and a nut, I can use my drill to tighten them. So I also have drill bits, and I have screwdrivers, a flathead and also a cross tip. And I also have one that's for some of the new screws, have square holes instead of the straight edge or the cross tip. Some of them are squares now, so I have a bit for that, for using square screws. I have other attachments where I can insert my tool. So I can use a wrench, I can use a screwdriver and switch very easily to a drill bit. And that way I don't have to remove this piece from the drill. That goes into the drill, and then my different bits can go inside. I have a drill bit or a screwdriver. Let's talk about the different parts of your drill. This is called your chuck, and you will notice it is a keyless truck. The old drills use a key mechanism to loosen the chuck, which in turn allows you to insert different tools in different sizes into your chuck, and your chuck holds the tool. This one has a different type of chuck. This chuck you loosen and tighten with a turning mechanism, almost like a screw. This one you pull in and out. You pull it in and out. This one requires a drill bit or screw to have a different type of attachment. This one gets inserted, you lift, and it drops in and locks in place. To remove it, you lift the collar and lift. And this little indentation helps lock the tool in. This drill also has different settings for drilling, for screwing, and it can also be used as an impact or hammer drill, where the hammer helps insert the screw into the wood. It also has 2 speed settings, one for slow speed and 2 for faster speed. That's the speed there, slow and fast, 1 and 2. It also has a speed for the chuck, so that when you are setting a screw into your wood, and when I say setting, what I mean is You screw the wood in. To set a screw refers to setting the head of the screw even with the face or front part of the wood. So it should be even and not deep in or sticking out. You set it into the wood so that it's flush with the surface of the wood. And these settings allow you to do that. The settings go from 2, according to your arrow, from 2 all the way to 24. The 2 is when you're working into very soft material. The speed of the drill stops once the screw is set into your material. If you have a harder material like wood, you have to set the dial at a higher setting that allows for the screw to be pushed deeper into the wood, but not beyond the face of the wood or the surface of the wood. So that way it doesn't get buried into the wood. So these settings allow you to do that. And let me demonstrate. We need our drill, and we need an attachment that has a screwdriver head. In this case, we'll be putting in a cross tip screw. These used to also be called Philip head screws. Philip was a Canadian who created the cross tip that allowed for more pressure to be put on the screw to set it into the lumber. Demonstrate. I have my screw, I have my attachment, I insert my attachment and tighten the chuck to the attachment and give it a good tight. That way it doesn't come out. I'll set my setting on screw, and we'll set our dial, because we're screwing into lumber, we'll set it high. We'll set it at 24, its highest point. So everything is lined up with my arrow, the screw, and the amount of pressure. I take my screw, and again, I want to safely work on my lumber, so I am going to clamp it in place. You'll see that I'm clamping it in place. Just going to remove this for a minute. And I'm going to drill a screw into it. To do that, I hold my screw straight up and down, insert my tube, and turn. Once it's in, I can remove my hand. Be very careful when you're holding the screw that the screw doesn't cut your hand. So hold it up high where there are no threads. The threads are sharp and they can't cut you. Once it's in the wood, I can remove my hand, and you'll notice I'm trying to keep my tool straight, up and down. The more pressure you put on the trigger, the faster the drill will spin. So if I want it to move slowly when I first start, I put a small amount of pressure on the drill, on the trigger. And you'll notice I'm not squeezing the trigger and holding it. I'm squeezing a little bit and releasing. That way I have more control over keeping my screwdriver and the head of my screw. If I go too fast, sometimes the screwdriver would jump out of the screw head, and you have to start over again. So to set my screw, I have it screwed in. To set it, I move slowly until the head of the screw reaches the surface, and I set it just even with the surface. So now I have my screw in the wood. If I need to remove it, I have to change the direction that the drill spins in. I have to reverse it. On this drill, you have a mechanism right above or right across from the trigger that allows me to change direction. If I push it in, it has an arrow. The arrow points toward the screw. That means it's going forward into the wood. On the other side, that same button has an arrow pointing in the opposite direction. And this tells me it's in reverse. It's removing the screw, not setting it, but removing it. So I push this side of the button in, and then it goes in the opposite direction, and I can remove my screw. You see? So, what type of screws should we use? There are different types of screws that have different purposes. I have 4 screws in my hand. This screw is called a sheetrock screw, but it is so common and so inexpensive, people use it for everything. But this screw is designed for indoors, and it is designed for sheetrock that will be pressed up against and attached to a metal frame. Hence, the threads, these are called the thread. As I said before, they're sharp. This is the point. The point is also sharp. The threads, as you will see, are kind of close together. This is a smooth thread. This thread is most commonly used to attach wood to metal. The threads are close together to hold the screw into the metal. This is another sheetrock screw. You will notice the threads are further apart. This is a coarse thread. This type of thread is used for attaching sheetrock to wood, to lumber. The threads are further apart to grab the lumber and hold the screw inside the lumber. It will grab the lumber a lot better than a smooth thread. The smooth thread can be pulled out of lumber a lot easier than the coarse thread. These are both indoor screws. I suggest that you do not use them for outdoor applications because they will rust a lot faster than an exterior screw. Exterior screws. Exterior screws nowadays have different coatings that protect the metal from moisture outdoors. This one is called a decking screw. Decking screws come with what's called a Teflon coating, and there are different types of Teflon coatings. The color will tell you what type of Teflon or coating that it has. You can also get outdoor or exterior screws made from galvanized metal. The metal is dipped into a softer metal, and that is galvanized metal. Unfortunately, I don't have a galvanized screw, but I do have a galvanized nail. This is a roofing nail. It is galvanized. You can tell it's galvanized because it is not shiny. It is dull. You'll also notice that the tip of this screw has a cut in it, whereas this screw does not have a cut into the thread. What this cut does is allow the screw, we refer to this type of screw as a self-tapping screw. Tapping refers to the screw going into the wood, tapping into the wood as it turns. This little cut here actually serves like a knife. It cuts the fibers of the wood so that the screw can go in a lot faster. So it is a tapping screw, a self-tapping. You also notice the threads are further apart, so it is coarse, and that tells me that it can be used in wood, in lumber. This one is also a wood screw. The threads are coarse, so it is a wood screw. This is actually a galvanized screw, so it can be used indoors or outdoors. Well, actually it's not galvanized, it's actually stainless steel, and stainless steel rusts very slowly, so it can be used indoors or outdoors. You'll notice the head of the screw is different. It's square on the bottom. It's not tapered like the decking screw. So this screw, the head of the screw sits above the surface of the wood. This screw, because it's tapered, it can be pushed or set all the way to the surface of the wood or the material that you're attaching.